We've discussed all the different options that you have using two fingers. Now we're going to get into the more advanced fingering positioning of using three fingers. Your index, middle, and ring fingers. Now, like I said in the last video, you gotta position your hand so that all three of your fingers can rest comfortably on the string and can attack the string evenly and cleanly, not to mention smoothly. Now, if you're using three fingers on one string, like say you're just riding on the low E string, you can pluck out more notes at a faster clip with three fingers than you can with two fingers. Because with two fingers you got to move a little quicker, but with three fingers, each finger can go at a slower pace. And another easy thing that you can do is something that's used predominantly in Iron Maiden's music, the gallop. And if you look at it in a note grouping sense, in one beat you play three notes. It's not quite a triplet, but many people will call it a triplet. The gallop is actually an eighth note followed by two 16th notes. So it's 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a, if you're counting it. The problem that arises when you use more than two fingers is when you're going from string to string. Now there are people who avoid this by keeping their bass lines on to one string. Alex Webster from Cannibal Corpse in the most recent issue of Bass Player talked about how there's one song off of the new Cannibal Corpse album that has a tricky bass line that he uses his three-finger approach with, but he keeps it all on one string. So all the technicality, all the trickiness involved with it is kept to the low E string, which he tunes down to a C sharp. Now, the other ways you can get around doing this is like, say you do, is a guitar technique that can be used as economy picking. And what that is if you're playing a passage that goes between a couple of different strings, and say you're going from a higher string to a lower string, use whatever string you struck the higher string with, whatever finger you struck that higher string with, to strike the lower string with. And then you can continue. So it'd be more like, it reduces the amount of movement that happens with this right hand. And when you get into trickier and more technically demanding passages with your right hand, the less movement you can attain with this hand, the better off and the smoother the passage is gonna be played, the smoother it's gonna sound. Of course, the other thing that you can do if you want to keep to using three fingers is use the index and ring finger two-finger technique that I was talking about in the last video. So there are ways to get around the three-finger thing when you're going from string to string. Just remember, reduce the movement when necessary. You can still use all three going from string to string. But it gets a little trickier when it's at a faster clip and a more complicated thing. See what I mean? And so, really look at what you're plucking with your fingers all the time, and look at what's tripping you up and figure out ways to reduce and minimize all the things that are tripping you up. That way you can bust out a tricky Jocko bass line using three fingers, but played as smoothly and precisely as anyone who uses just two fingers. But again, metronome, clock it out. Make sure that you can play it cleanly, smoothly, and without any flubs.